Welcome to Amazon Legends, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became power sellers, also providers specializing in helping sellers, aggregators that acquire sellers, and former Amazonians will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here is your host, Nick Urison.
Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. My next guest today is a 9-figure Amazon seller, and he has several other businesses. And when he and I first spoke, he started listing me all these businesses that he was running, totally unrelated. And the one that made me laugh the most was he said, I had a scuba brand. And since I'm into scuba diving, so I thought, oh, so where do you go? I says, no, I have nothing to do with scuba. I just happened to create a brand and became very successful. So he's busy with all these businesses. And when he's not working, he spends time with his kids, salsa dancing, chess, and Scrabble. With that, everybody, meet my guest, Carlos Alvarez. Welcome to the show, Carlos.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it. And that's probably the best intro I've had being on a show before. So I love it.
Really? Well, I mean, I cannot imagine how somebody goes into a business, because a long time ago, I heard something about starting a business or investing in a business rather. And they said that people invest in either people they know or the business they know. So in your case, when I heard you mention scuba, I mean, you don't understand the whole sport, right? What drives people, because scuba can be pretty grueling, and with the carrying the stuff and traveling and getting sick with all kinds of different conditions, and not to mention when you go underwater, you have all these, and here you are, you have nothing to do with it, and then you decide to create a brand.
That was one of the first brands that I had, and back then it was a different time on Amazon, really. So we're talking about almost 15 years ago. So it was more of like Wild West opportunity. So I saw an opportunity and did it. Whereas fast forward to nowadays, not that this is the right or the wrong way to do it, but I get into brands that I'm passionate about or would like to be passionate about as a main criteria sort of to start. But obviously that it's easy to say that now. That's just so I'm not hypocritical. That's not how I started.
Yeah. Well, so when you and I first discussed Amazon and how you got to be 9-figure seller, and that's a huge accomplishment. That's thousands of orders handling on regular basis. You mentioned that there is one thing that you have in common with all the businesses that you start, that you create a community around.
Correct.
So that was your, if you like, the secret sauce. So what we're going to talk about today, for my listeners to understand, and as you probably heard some of the other episodes, and then my listeners know that anything that they hear on this show, I'd like them to be able to take away and then apply in their business and then see an impact. So keyword, making it actionable is really my goal. So on this show, learning from your success, we're going to talk about the Amazon Influencer Program. And you share with us some of the tips and best practices that work well for you. And then also, what is the best way to leverage Amazon Live Video? Because these two are extremely valuable. It doesn't cost any advertising dollars. So in that sense, it's a good way to go about it. So with that, let's jump right in. So tell us, where do we start with the influencer program?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a lot to unpack here. So I think the first fork in the road you get to make this as actionable as possible, like you said, and it doesn't have to be an either or, but I think trying to really kind of going in the vein of the one thing, like doing one thing at a time, getting really good at it and building on it. You choose whether you want to approach the Amazon influencer as a revenue stream to make money directly as the influencer themselves, or whether you want to go about this as I want to connect with other influencers, or I want to take advantage in a good way, leveraging the power of those influencers on your product detail page to scale sales. So going with the first one first. If you approach the Amazon, and I'm going to preface this by saying I bootstrapped, if you would, all my businesses, and not out of some kind of sense of pride and, I'm too good to take money. I didn't qualify for any money. Nobody wanted to give me money when I started. So I was sort of forced into this bootstrapping, and I found myself doing a lot of these different little side hustles to inject cash into my job, because I didn't keep my job while I was growing the business, which hindsight, I feel it was a mistake. But when I first saw this Amazon influencer program opportunity, it was actually somebody named Andrew Pardine on social media. And he started posting this. I made $180 in 3 days posting reviews of products that I bought on Amazon. And I was like, that's weird. Like, how do you make money off of a review on Amazon? Like, $180 isn't changing anything, but like that's interesting. So I love the feature on Facebook posts where you can just put, show me all the like the comments that come in on this. So I did, and he kept updating it week after week. And at the end of the first week, he was at, I'm making, $60 a day on the influencer program. And this kept going to where, 2.5 months in, he's almost at, $10,000 a month. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I could have used something like this when I first started. And one of the communities I have now, we have a lot of like new sellers coming to the community, and it just becomes a lot easier to scale a brand or whatever on or off Amazon when you're not stressing about capital. So having this cash flow engine that's constantly injecting capital into your business is just it's powerful. So I was initially looking at this is a pretty phenomenal way or idea to recommend to people I know who are just starting off. But I don't want to be a hypocrite here and tell people they should go do this unless I do it myself. And so I got together with my wife, who's accustomed to this at this point. I said, babe, I got an idea. I got this idea. She rolls her eyes. And I explain what this is, and I explain everything that I just shared with you now. And she's like, I'm game. Like, let's do it. We got 2 small kids around the house. It's something we could do together. So we start this, and quickly we get this to, mind you, we're doing this with a few minutes of our spare time. Like, we're not treating this at all like a business. And we quickly take this thing to about $3,000 a month in money. And all we're doing is we're taking out a smartphone, no post-production, no editing, no anything. We're taking out a smartphone, and we're just getting what, look, if anyone here listening, just look around. Most things are sold on Amazon. If whether you bought it on Amazon is irrelevant, as long as it's currently sold on Amazon, you could just do a review of it and go to your influencer account, upload it, tag the product. And now what you're going to notice is, now I want people to like visualize this. And Nick, I know you got this, but like, we're looking at a product detail page. There's a lot of different placements of video on the product detail page. And starting with that top main, hero video on a listing, you'll notice when you click into it now, there's a lot of additional videos that weren't posted there by the brand. Those are posted by influencers. So what happens is, brand videos on a listing, they're very like for the brand, they're corporate. Whereas these influencers, it's kind of like amateur hour, but you really relate to them because this person's not painting the product in its best light. They'll say anything. And you relate to it and increases conversions. Well, if you look at any part of one of those videos and then you buy the products, Amazon pays the person who posted that video a percentage of the sale. It doesn't cost the seller anything extra. They don't make less. They take it out of their commissions. They pay the seller, the influencer, a percentage of the sales for everything that the person had in the cart at the time, not just the product they did the video on. So this becomes a very lucrative revenue stream for someone that just wants to post like 5-10 videos a day. And so far, everyone I know that's doing it and consistently, which is a rare thing that someone stays consistent with something for a long time. But if you did just post 5 to 10 videos a day, most people at around the 90-day mark are sitting at several $1,000s a month of just recurring revenue that's coming in. That's how it's approached from the side of, you're approaching this as if you wanted to make money from the program. And the Amazon influencer live stream bit, I'll tackle that together. But I notice a lot of people are just like, I can't spend more than X amount a day on Amazon advertising. And I'm just like, well, I get it. You got to work with, you got to know your numbers and you got to work with what you got. But in my experience, he or she who spends the longest in ads usually wins.
Right.
Obviously with some intelligence, like I didn't make the rules. And when you're in a bad spot, I don't know if we're on the same page on this. Feel free to correct me, Nick, but I feel like in good times, you should run ads. And in bad times, you must run ads. So, right. So like when you're struggling is now not the time to say, hey, let's pull back on our daily budget, as hard as that is to swallow. But I get it. You got bills, you got someone saying, I told you this wasn't going to work, and you got all that going on. But when you have this other revenue stream going on that you can just dump right into your ad spend, the whole game changes. And I know it would have been a lot different for me if I had one of those revenue streams when I was starting. So that's one thing to look at with the Amazon influencer program. I'm not saying you should not do your brand. I'm not saying you shouldn't, I don't know if this is going to be something that's as lucrative as it is now in 2-3 years, but right now it is. Now, any questions on that, or do I, because I'm on my box now, I'll start rambling.
I'm definitely jumping in with a few things. So first of all, there's a couple of different things that I want to add to the conversation. So what you are advocating for is nothing to do with an Amazon seller building their own operation, selling, or that something that will contribute to their own brand. But this is if you want to call it a side hustle that is in the universe that you operate in, that you are already intimately familiar with as a seller, and which in fact you can benefit yourself on your own product detail pages by getting more intimately familiar with it. But ultimately, it's about promoting somebody else's item and creating a video and submitting it to appear on the product detail page. And anytime anybody makes a purchase after viewing that video, you get a percentage of the deal. Okay, now a couple of things. So I had a lady, she's running a business. It's all about the influencer program. That a couple of things that I learned from her that I want to bring into this conversation so that listeners can get the full picture. First of all, in order for the brands to take advantage of these user-generated content, right? That's ultimately what it says, UGC. They have to first ungate their product or for receiving these UGC content. And in order to do that, as a seller, you have to upload your brand video. So if your listings have no video whatsoever, then the doors are closed. Nobody can submit this UGC. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, this is as a brand yourself. If you want others to submit UGC and then take advantage of it, which, by the way, you also very softly mentioned, Amazon pays these influencers, but it doesn't cost you a dime, right? Amazon pays out. It's a huge deal. So anybody listening, go upload your brand video so that you can open those gates for influencers to submit. The second part of it is, this is the program for influencers. So somebody who's listening may say, okay, how do I sign up for this? They have to become an approved creator, right? So it's called Amazon Creator, that network, and you have to sign up as well. So, and you have to be approved. So Amazon is going to give you an ID, and you can then see, just like affiliate networks, where you can see all the sellers and everything, and these creators can pick and choose who they want to submit reviews for. I'm sure that they would pick higher ticket items because the percentage would be greater rather than a $10 item. So there's all these different things. Of course, you can search Amazon, but ultimately, to take advantage of the idea that you suggested, they've got to sign up as an Amazon creator, and then those UGCs that you create, they are provided under the Amazon Influencer Program. So does that kind of bring it full circle?
Yeah, you hit two really good points there where an influencer can't put a video on your listing until you've already opened the doors, if you would, for that product. The only way it could even connect with your listing outside of that would be through the Amazon Inspire feed. That's not going to appear on the product detail page. And the other point that you mentioned is right on the money. I would sort of using that as a segue to talk about the other half of the Amazon influencer program from the part of the seller is I think there's a lot of sellers out there now that are just not aware of how those videos are appearing and are not treating it as, and I was guilty of this as well until I saw it from the influencer side. I was really ignorant of a lot of the ways that was there. It was just one of those things I didn't really pay attention to. But once I was on there as an influencer, one thing that starts happening almost immediately is that Chinese brands and Chinese factories, they look at your influencer profile because you get like an influencer storefront, and they look at the videos you do, and they have software that goes in there and says, you know, like imagine this factory that sells on Amazon US, a factory in China sells on Amazon US, and they sell pool products. Their tools will go through those influencer pages and look for someone that's doing reviews that has a pool or that has kids, if there's a kids product, or pets. And then they reach out to you because if they go to your page, they can just kind of like reverse engineer it. They see what social medias you connected, and then it's pretty easy to find you and reach out, and they pay, which was great. But again, that's more for the monetizing as an influencer on Amazon. But what I noticed is I started getting reached out to by some of these brands, and they wanted me to do a video that was talking bad about the video. So this was a different concept. Obviously, if I'm going to shoot a video as an influencer, as a creator, I want it to convert because that's how I'm going to make money. Not that I'm going to give a product a 5-star video review. And there's no star rating. I'm just saying, like, I'm giving it a glowing video saying it's amazing if it's not. But instead of creating a video, because that's the end of the day, it's resources it takes. Instead of creating a negative or hit piece, I just won't do any. Because why would I do a hit piece and invest resources into doing this if no one's going to convert on it and I make money? So I'd rather pass and just stay positive. But when this brand did this, it made me think, and it was like, man, they're willing to pay me, you know, 50 to $100 to do a 30-second thing, basically saying that they didn't like it. And I started getting more of these, and then it clicked, and I was like, this is another way that they're sabotaging, or that your competitors are attacking your listings. And a lot of sellers don't realize how those videos even get there. So there's no way to really defend. So for me, moving forward on all listings, just kind of like a part of our checklist for, you know, going into this as a launch, we want to get, which is roughly about 15 influencers, Amazon influencers, that can leave reviews so that I can take up all those slots telling the story that I want, rather than allowing my competitors to jump in there and leave negative reviews, because there's no rule against the reviews must be positive. You just see them as positive because the influencer wants to make money off of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what you're saying is these Chinese factories are hiring these influencers to leave negative review videos on their competition, and they pay them for those videos.
Absolutely. And since when we say the word Amazon influencer, or just the word influencer, I feel like a lot of listeners may think Kim Kardashian, you know, an actor or somebody with a reputation that is like, I'm not going to put my reputation on the line for hitting this. No, you're talking about an army of people that are approaching this as a side hustle, that for a couple bucks, you can, you know, target a third world country with likes to page ads and qualify for the program. Unbeknownst to Amazon, you know, you hit your 5,000 page likes, but you're not I hate to say this. I really feel like we're all influencers. It's whether we exert it or not. That's at issue. But And as a brand, I think you are an influencer, whether you know it or not, but to the full extent of the term as we know it as an influencer, no, the majority of people in that program are not influencers. They're side hustlers, as you pointed out, and a very lucrative side hustle it is. But when you're there and you have no reputation on the line and you have, say 15 factories, one company give you 15 products so that you can do positive reviews on those and negative reviews that they'll order the competitor's product and send it to you, cost you nothing. You're getting 30 free products to leave 30 reviews, and they're just going to PayPal you $1,500 to $2,000. I know many of people that will do that. And heck, I'm not proud of it, but when I was grinding and living off Subway sandwiches, I probably would have taken one of those in the early days, Yeah. So it's like, I expect a lot of other people might not admit that, but they might. So if you're not filling those slots up as a seller, I think you're unnecessarily opening yourself up to sabotage, to attack. Not to mention, I'm pretty popular for wearing these Columbia shirts. Every time you see me, I'm wearing this long sleeve black or blue fisherman Columbia shirt. And I started just because I put a lot of weight on after I got married, not because of I don't fish. I'm not an outdoorsman, and they just fit well on me. But when I was looking for shirts to kind of switch up into what I wear now, I was looking online, and everyone online that had these shirts on, they looked like they had a six pack. But I saw this one on YouTube, and it was somebody that I felt like had more my body type. And it was this amateur-like video. And that's how I started wearing these shirts. So those videos on your listing, I feel like, are an opportunity, depending on the product, to have a bunch of different, we live in an amazing world with different colors and different accents and different sizes. Take an opportunity to tap into all that and have it show up on your listing. People will just relate to it better, in my opinion, and you increase conversions.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is 21st century. People don't read as much anymore. They just watch videos. And even those videos that they watch, now we've got these real videos, that last 30 seconds, they come with strict rules. They can't be too long. So everything is in these short bursts of delivering something to influence somebody about whatever that the subject matter may be. But I want to go back to something again for listeners to really use as valuable piece of tip. You mentioned 15 slots. So there are 15 slots that can have user-generated content videos.
That's the amount that they show at any given time. So anybody else that submits a video after that, it's just not visible.
So you have to scroll. You have to scroll.
Well, you can't even scroll. That's all they show. But the reason, and Amazon is not clear on how this works. This is just purely me guessing at what I'm about to say. I'm basing this off of 15 years on Amazon. I've seen all their programs roll out. They seem to have a system for how they do this. Right now, it's very, very wild west on how those videos are going up there and what's put. It's kind of like first come, first served to fill the slots. But it does seem that they're moving towards maybe a new time where, and this would make sense. Think about this with me. If there's 15 videos up there and one of them Amazon sees every time somebody watches it, it results in a conversion. Amazon seems to be moving those videos up to the top. So those are the primo placements. So I think we see a time where all of what's shown in the slot, even if you get 15 people to add a video, if somebody else adds a video on there and maybe it's final slot 15 and it does well, I see them bumping something out of that 15 and introducing maybe something newer that is doing well, like maybe the equivalent of an upvote on a review, as we know it. I see that happening. Pure guess on my part for that, but it does seem apparent, and at the end, it would make a ton of sense, I think.
Okay. So the bottom line, it is going to benefit you, your product detail page, if you have 15 videos, user-generated content videos. Those 15 could be the 15 that you picked by bringing other influencers, or you simply do nothing and wait for influencers to pick up your listing to create videos for. or do nothing and the influencers do nothing, then you are a sitting duck for somebody to target you. And of course, who's going to target you, Carlos? If you are doing well, they're going to target you. If you're not doing well, they're not going to target you, right? Because it doesn't matter. So if you're doing well, you really cannot afford to be a sitting duck for somebody to, put negative videos and they're going to. So this is an interesting thing. So what you are saying is for brands, be aware, fill up the 15, otherwise somebody else will. And then you have no control over. The second thing is brands, sellers, if you want a side hustle, sign up as an influencer, as a creator, then you are going to find some sellers will approach you just to create negative review. And they'll pay you for it. And then that will fill up their competition's pages. So that's really what it is. Wow, listen, there's always, there's always a good way. Like everybody's talking about AI now, right? So we are all talking about, this makes life so easy. We don't have to write content. We can do this, we can do that. It's making lives easy. And of course, some jobs are being lost in the process, but overall, there's benefit. And then there's a bunch of guys thinking, how can we do the evil thing? So this is the evil aspect of the influencer program.
Yeah, it's a sad reality, but the only way to avoid it is, don't.
Defense. So let me also tell you this. So this is along the same lines of what you're suggesting, not necessarily about influencer program, but we had a presentation with one of the Amazon advertising team members, and she was going through different campaign types, the sponsored brand, sponsored display, blah, blah. So what she suggested was you should run a defensive sponsored display campaign by putting banners or links, whatever, on your own product detail page. Because if you don't, your competition will advertise on your page. And I'm sure people have seen. So it's the same kind of thing. So it's not necessarily, hiring influencers to write negative review, but sponsored display campaigns also serve the purpose of running defensive campaigns as well as promotional campaigns. And the defensive campaigns are all about filling up the slots available with your own stuff so that your competition cannot. And exactly the same.
Kind of in the same vein, but a little bit of a detour. And then I don't know, I could keep going on this topic. I don't know if you want to if we want to get into a little Amazon live video, but I love to really juice. I don't know if it's flywheel, but I want to get the most out of every software I subscribe to. I want to be as efficient as possible. So filling up those initial slots, similar to one of our other things on our checklist for a launch, is we make sure we have like our top 50 frequently asked questions for the product, and we have people go into the listing, ask those questions. We answer them because it indexes. But there's a resource cost to that, and there's not a great deal we can do with it once we've done it, unlike the Amazon influencer program. So first of all, you could pretty easily find and if not, someone feel free to reach out to me. I'll connect you with a bunch of people that are in the program. And while they're not having this huge following that's going to give you a bunch of sales, they can help you fill that, that 15 and probably just for exchange for a product, The other way would be like something like Join Brands or something, which you're going to pay a couple dollars per review. But if you do go that route and you get these vertical video reviews, what I'm doing now, and just with really good success, is the Amazon Post program is now allowing us to post vertical video as a post. And not many people are still doing this. So it really stands out to people that do look at this feed. And then in addition to that, in your dashboard, you get to see which one of those videos is performing well. Mm-hmm. And that now, if you go into your sponsored brand video and you want to, add your creative, it lets you connect to your posts. So you get to go to one of these vertical posts, that you initially got just because you needed to do it anyway to check this box as an Amazon influencer. But you see it's very authentic and it's very raw and it's converting well. We're just connecting those now and using that as the video asset with all of its loaded social proof as a sponsored brand vertical video ad. And it's been gangbusters. It's been great. So that has nothing to do, I guess, with the topic, but I just love making the most of something. And that's one way that in case you are paying someone a couple bucks for each of those reviews to load the, the miracle 15, if you will, that you could make more out of this than you can make a really great ROI.
So those videos that influencers post, can you take that video yourself and then insert in other places, or it just stays wherever it's posted?
If you hired the influencer or you contracted them or you negotiated whatever you negotiated, that video is yours. Like you pretty much, you gave them a product in exchange for that. Now, in addition to that, they posted it to their Amazon influencer page. So it's going to reside as an Amazon influencer post, but it can also reside as a post in the Amazon posts program as a video, as long as it's a vertical video.
Yeah. So the vertical videos are new that Amazon started to promote. So those are just like you see on Facebook and YouTube, those vertical short form videos. And you can run sponsored brand video campaigns. Now, there's one other thing that Amazon, not related to influencer, but since we're talking about those sponsored brand campaigns, Amazon now has that AI-based image creation. So those sponsored brand campaigns, you can create custom images with themes built in. So
they're pretty good too.
Yeah, so you can say, okay, these are the ASINs that I want to run my sponsored brand campaign for. And then you simply pick the picture, the main picture, as it's in its raw format. And then you say, okay, create a picture in a kitchen on the counter, with surrounding, different fruits or whatever. And then bang, within a flash, you get that image, and then you assign that to your campaign, and there you go. So you've got a whole different campaign going on.
Yeah, you're ahead of the pack. A lot of people aren't even talking about that. Yeah, it's actually, when they rolled it out, I was like, well, this is going to be garbage. Like the idea is great, but I don't have high expectations for Amazon's AI creative. I think it was more AI than Amazon though, but I think they're good. I've definitely paid sometimes for not as good. So I'm very happy with what they're putting out. And that's a solid strategy that you shared.
I have a question for my listeners. Are you experiencing cash flow challenges with your Amazon business? Well, silly question. Who is not, right? So let me introduce you to Viably, a unique solution tailored for Amazon sellers and e-commerce enterprises. By connecting your Seller Central or Shopify account, you can promptly access funding along with a variety of financial tools, all for a flat fee. It's as simple as that. And for my listeners, they are offering an extra $1,500 in funding for eligible applications. Start your quick and easy application today at runviably.com/legends. And that's runviably.com/legends. All right, cool. So let's move on to the live video, Amazon live video.
Yeah. So I love Amazon live video. And this is an opportunity that most sellers are not doing, most brands are not doing. And I get why getting in front of a camera is difficult. And somebody says, just turn the camera on. That's all you got to do. Yeah. I guess it's better than doing nothing, but in reality, there is some scripting. There is some forethought that needs to go into this. It's a lot less complicated than running a brand on Amazon, but it's there's no overlap between the two skill sets. So it's very new. Not to mention that a successful seller usually means not good content creator for some reason, right? So when Amazon Live Video first rolled out, if you had brand registry on Seller Central or Vendor Central, you just got to take advantage of it. So what did you have I watched for hours this one brand who sold banana hangers. So if you have a thing of bananas and you want to hang them and suspend them in the air instead of just lay them in your house on a rack, this thing just hung your banana, and apparently it extended the life of the bananas. This person just got a camera and live streamed bananas hanging from a banana hanger for hours. So I got an opportunity to speak to some of the higher ups in Amazon Live Video because I was doing a ton of it. And they shared that, they started creating an Amazon influencer ability to go into Amazon Live Video, because if left as is, it was just going to kill the program, because most successful sellers is usually synonymous with not a good content creator. It's rare that you can put the two together. And so they did. And initially it was invite only, and it was only like the Sylvester Stallones of the world and stuff like that. But then they started, like they do with everything, they started rolling it out and being like, hey, if you're in the Amazon influencer program, then, which is a very low bar, by the way, to get in. And if you're in this program, you now have the option to post the types of product review videos that we talked about, which are called shoppable videos, and monetize them by on-site commissions. Or you can go live on Amazon, which is, think of, if someone listening to this hasn't seen it, think of a QVC and Home Shopping Network got together, had a baby, and that's what Amazon Live Video is, because everybody there has a card loaded ready for like buy it now. And unlike QVC and Home Shopping Network, where a lot of people just go to watch for entertainment, with Amazon, there's none of that. Like everyone's there to buy. It's a very different world. Like everyone wants to buy. If you just talk too much or add too much theoretical value and positivity, it's a weird play. That would work anywhere else, that whole 80-20, but like not on Amazon. They will sell me something, So that's what Amazon Live Video looks like. And I, in the last brands that I exited, this was one of the things that we were putting the greatest amount of effort into pre 2020. 2020, for obvious reasons, video online boomed for everybody. But a strategy that I used, and I want to preface this by saying I'm a very white hat seller. Like I love talking around the bar about all the tricks and the hacks, but in my business with, employees that are depending on me to put food on their family's table, I don't do any of those shady things. So in this case, though, since I started doing this, there's been some rule changes. So I just want I'm saying this, I want everyone to kind of like approach this with like, you do your own due diligence on this. And that is, I did something which we called VSFB. So verbal search find buy. We know search find buys. We know Amazon clarified that's not you shouldn't be doing that. It's hacking the algorithm. But with a verbal search find buy, I coined this. And what it is when you're on your live stream on Amazon, you're allowed to bring up text overlays and graphics onto your stream that you're accustomed to seeing anywhere. And what I would do is the product that I was talking about, I would pull up a timer, like a countdown timer on the screen, very easy to do. And then I would mention that here's this code, and I put the code on the screen. I didn't make it copy and pastable. I didn't do anything. I just put this code, really easy to remember code. And I said, search for, golden black humidor, on Amazon, first 10 to get it using this code gets it at, and it was this pretty hefty discount. I would use these in combinations for launches. So what happened was people would then, there was no link for them to click on and just go straight to the product. So they would have to open another browser. Open another tab, because they don't want to close the stream and find out if they missed out on it. They still need to get the code. They would open another tab and they would search. So that's why I called it a verbal, which was my verbal cue, and they search and did a find buy. And I would do that for different, keywords that I was going after, and it worked amazing. Mind you, in your first stream, when you have like 15, 20 people on there, which is not a small thing, but when you have 15 to 20 people on there, then it doesn't seem as impactful. When you start getting into the hundreds of these, and you're doing this in combination with a very focused launch of your products, this becomes a very powerful thing to go after. So that's still a strategy that I think works phenomenal with Amazon Live Video.
I should have you every week, at least once a week, to give us all these tips.
For every tip, though, there's 10 failures, by the way. I don't want to sound like a know-it-all here. For every tip, I've failed at 20 other tips.
But we don't want to know about those. So what you're doing is, I mean, search, find, and buy. That's the best way to get ranked. And you're just giving them cues how to do the search. And of course, you're targeting your keywords. So, but the code is for a discount, right?
Right. So the code, I could just copy paste the code in the comment field, but what I learned is if they copied the code, because when someone watching this has not seen a stream, you're looking at, imagine a YouTube video, but the comments next to that video are live comments back and forth with the viewers that are watching it live. And if I found out when I drop the code in the comments field for somebody just to copy and paste, they would navigate into the Amazon marketplace and stop my stream.
I see. Okay.
Whereas if I had it on the screen, and this wasn't I forget who on my team gave me this idea. It was not mine, but they said, man, if they're not going to memorize the code, they're going to have to open another tab and they're going to have to bounce back and forth between the two. So I didn't have this heavy drop off on my stream, which Amazon doesn't say it does this, but it seems like the more active your stream is, the more people they start showing it to. Makes sense. So I didn't want the drop off coming from the stream. And I also wanted people jumping in there, confirming that they had purchased it and that the code worked great, because that got other people kind of like there's a mind hack for this, but it's like a psychology marketing thing. And it's
Me too movement.
right. Yeah, like that. It's like a Me Too movement, like an Amazon Me Too movement. And it's like, they want to go get it and they want to go try it too. So this worked great. That's why we showed the code on the screen, but didn't paste it.
But this is a code. It's you create in the promotion section, and you create a code, right? And then that's the code that you are displaying.
Correct. That'll have already been set up on the back end of the listing. I'll have just made it not visible on the actual listing to where I'm showing it on the stream.
Yeah, and also you limit it to X number of uses, right?
Depending on how aggressive you're going with the code, then you do want to limit it. Usually the codes we put out there, we were ready to honor it. I mean, even if somebody came back and said, I tried this code and it didn't work, by any chance is it there? Like, I've never not honored that for somebody that's reached out. So it really wasn't. It was just a way of, again, testing. And I didn't test this with Amazon Live Video. This was just more of like a marketing, like there needs to be some sort of scarcity involved and the sense of urgency, all this stuff that I didn't invent, but like we get it. And you really find out when you're running a stream and it does well, and you ask yourself, like, how can I make this better? How can I get more people to watch? How can you start making these little modifications? And what I shared was kind of like the outcome of like a bunch of iterations. And that's sort of what worked for us.
Yeah. Okay. And the discount that you are offering with that code, is that a deep discount or not?
So we didn't just do the live streams just for launches. I found that consistency with your streams worked well, especially a scheduled one, even on the back end of Amazon. So there's tiers. When you first start, they have a name for your tier, and I forget the names now, but you're in the mix with everybody else. And then once you've done probably 20 or 30 streams and you've shown that you're scheduling them in advance and you're meeting all of Amazon's rules, they'll promote you to the next level. And that'll be, you get the top header feature when someone on the live page. So think of like the hero on the coupon page, the hero on the Amazon Live Video page. And then the final tier, your live stream will show up in the home page of Amazon, which is the #1 shopped on page on Amazon. And you also get access to like holiday promo sections and stuff like that. So you, from the both sides of Amazon, you want to show that you're doing this frequently. Now, for a launch, we went heavier. We also tested not going that heavy on a launch. Like if we were going into a category that I felt was like very easy to rank for, like let's just use an example of like a cigar cutter. You know, if you want to rank top of page 1 for stainless steel guillotine cigar cutter, you probably need like 5-6 sales per day. So I really don't need to do a deep discount for that. And shockingly, when we did not do the deep discount, the results were about the same. It wasn't that big of a thing. And the highest we went up to like 40% one time. In that case, we had massive margins. So we were just like, let's try this.
Well, I mean, the reason why I bring up the discount is because it's your average order value drops, right? So when you apply the discount, so it's not necessarily the quantity of orders, but the value of orders also Amazon is looking at. So that's why I never advocate for deep discounts unless you're doing the Vine program, then it doesn't count anyway. So I would stay away from. So there's one other thing, Carlos. It's nothing to do with what we're talking about here, is but about discounting. So a lot of people don't really know the impact of the discount they offer on their margins. Because what happens is, let's say that you price an item $79.95. Okay, and then let's say that you're buying it for $10. You have great margin. You're buying it for $10. So you're spending 10 divided by 79.95. That's your cost, whatever that is. Like say 12%. Okay, so then you say, okay, I'm gonna pay 12% for the merchandise. I'm gonna pay 15% to Amazon, usual commission. Then your FBA cost may be another 15%. So you add up these and you say, okay, great. You know, if I achieve like 15% tacos, then I'm going to have about 25, 30% net. And then they go in and apply a discount of 15%. Of course, what happens is also it's an accounting trick. If you are only posting your net sales, you never really see how you are operating. Margins are being impacted. So offer a deep discount and not account for your operation the right way, then your discounting will be a complete question mark in terms of the impact it's making. What do you think about that?
I couldn't agree more. And just in case any of my friends are like listening to this, I feel we need to say this. So that is one of the weakest areas I have in my business, and recognized it very early on. Like not knowing my numbers that well at that level is one of the issues that put me several times close to going out of business, from going to we can travel anywhere to, oh my God, why is it almost at zero? You know? So what I just did early on is I know enough to have a conversation, like you and I could conversate about this, but I recognized early on that I just needed to hire someone or a solution. And over the years, it's been different. And I was just like, let me put this in somebody's hands who's an expert, who actually gets excited, you know, looking at these numbers. Whereas me, if I know that I have a day coming up and it's like, we're just going to crunch numbers nonstop, it's just, I won't want to get out of bed. Like if Excel even opens on my computer, I'm like, oh, I need antacid medication. It's like, this is a bad day for me. But you could not be, you're 100% right. Like most people don't. And it's almost the reverse. What a lot of people don't realize, increasing your sales price of your product by $1. Like imagine a $10 product and you had 10% profit margins. If you increase that by $1 sales price, you've significantly increased your profit margin by $1. Yeah. So like the reverse is equally, it's powerful. So I agree.
So you remind me one of the things that happened to me. So if you remember, go way back to 2001, 2002, when the dot-com bubble burst. So those days, internet business had just started. So anybody who registered a .com domain and then started a company with that same name could easily raise $10 million and then go, file for IPO and then make a lot of money. And then that was it, without having a proper business, without selling a single thing. So when the bubble burst, so it was all about making a PowerPoint presentation and showing, oh, this is our business plan, this is what we're going to do, this is the name of the company, and blah, blah, and here is the management team, and then give us $10 million. It's all on PowerPoint. But when the bubble burst, now it's about, okay, what is your business model? What are your margins? And how are you going to scale? So, of course, people didn't have businesses. So I attended a workshop. And in this workshop, one session was titled, Less PowerPoint, More Excel. So if you want to build a business, it's about the Excel work. Unfortunately, it's complicated. The other thing, unrelated, but definitely what you just mentioned, I think this we need to mention. You can manage all your margins as far as you push them, but they have a limit. And what I'm talking about is how much you're paying for the merchandise. What's your landed cost? Okay, you're gonna stop somewhere. You can't buy it for nothing. Your Amazon commission, non-negotiable. Your FBA fee, they're fixed. You can maybe not waste so much by picking the right size and the right tier, but there's gonna be. But your selling price is the direct influencer to your margins, your bottom line. And as yet, people are stuck in one price point because they say, this is how much we're going to sell it for. Guess what? It can only go down from that based on what discount you are offering. So there is a company, it's actually was started by, believe it or not, it's a friend of mine. He's the founder of Prosper Show.
Ah, you're talking prophecy.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking a lot at it. I think that that's an area that everyone should be prioritizing in their business. It should have always been the case, but this year, I feel like if you're not doing that, you could be looking at an extinction event in your business on Amazon. Like, things have changed and a lot of sellers haven't changed with it. Not just knowing that sort of business intelligence anymore in your business. And again, not to be hypocritical, I just hire people, hire solutions that can do this. So you not wanting to do it is not an excuse not to do it. Like, so,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, but like how you said it, I've never heard it said that well. And that is the case. You are in control of that. You do need to raise the price. Prophecy, we're looking at a lot. That's Chad Rubin.
Chad.
Yeah, Chad's a great guy, very intelligent. He founded and exited Scubana in the past. Like,
Right.
yeah, great guy, really knows his stuff. And when it comes to this, I think he's like he usually is. He's right on the money. Definitely need to be revisiting. I think it's a good thing that Amazon just did these hits, if you will, these fees, because it's going to be a wake up call. Somebody else named, I forget his name, but he posted something and said, the next 6 months, he predicts there's going to be a hard time for sellers that really know what they're doing, because there's a lot of other sellers that don't, and they're not raising their price. But in 6 months, they're probably going to go out of business. And the next 6 months is going to be this like fire sale where they're dropping their price and they just got to pay people. But after that, in perfect timing for Q4, know what you're doing and you've raised your prices and you have a solid business, it's going to be an amazing year.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is the direct impact, because you're dealing with the top line to increase the size of the pie of how much is going to come out of that sale. So you when you enlarge it, then you have a lot more to play with, and incremental changes. We're not talking about like raising from $79.95 to $89.95. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about $79.95, $79.87, $81.20, depending on, and again, this is all algorithm driven. And I had Chad on the podcast twice now. And first time was about a year ago. And then he was again on just a couple of weeks ago. It hasn't aired yet. So it's going to air by the time yours airs. It will be already on the air. And he shared some of the algorithms, and it's all BSR driven, competition driven, fully controlled. So I would definitely recommend every seller to, I'd say, use it. I mean, why would you not want to use a tool that will help you get more?
At Prosper Show, you mentioned a couple of years back, there was the guys from Dr. Squatch soap. And I'm a fan of their branding. Like, their branding sort of speaks to me, and I'm their avatar. So they share this study of what they did on Amazon, and they were doing some years back. They were doing about 52 or 54 million in sales per year. And they were selling single bars of soap for $7.99 each. That's a lot of soap, right? So most businesses, including myself, I would have been guilty of this the majority of my career, if you will. I would have just been, don't rock the boat. Just leave this alone. That's 50 something million dollars, And instead, fortunately for them, they decided, They were going to do away with their one bar because the Amazon fees were, really eating it, and they could only sell the one bar for so much. And they decided they're going to sell the one bar on their site, but nothing but 3-packs on Amazon. So instead of adding a 3-pack at $21, they added a 3-pack at $27.99. So they increased their cost per bar $2 and sold it in a 3-pack. So now they don't have 3 Amazon fees; they have 1. They massively increased their profit margin, and now they're like a $400 million a year brand on Amazon. So really ultimately testing and playing with your price and seeing what that price is. I found my worst profit margin is when I have the bestseller badge. If I fight tooth and nail to maintain position number 1 organically for my best keywords and I get bestseller badge, that is usually when my profit margin is the least. Whereas if I just play with my pricing, I raise my pricing, wifey's happier, I get to give raises, I get to have more profits to invest in more products. And I sit at number 4, number 5. I sell less units, but I crush it on profit. Nowadays, that's where I want to be.
Yeah. Well, throw a number at you as far as what I value as the most important number. And in terms of health of an operation, what is the number that you're watching the most in terms of cash?
The number that I look at the most, this is probably not the best number to look at, but in all honesty, since I have a team that really helps me on that other end, I'm paying attention to sales. I guess is not the number you should be, but I can't help it that I'm always looking at sales. But I would not just be looking at that number if I didn't have like a trusted crack team in place that was letting me know like profitability at a SKU level, and just what are my other costs and fees associated with each product at a different level. I would be looking at a different number, but all honesty, I look at sales now.
All right. Well, I tell you, in terms of, like I said, this is for the health of an Amazon operation from cash standpoint, liquidity. So this is just me. This is my opinion. And I run it by people, and I've seen businesses go out of business because they didn't pay attention to this. Even though they have a good business and growing business, as yet they go out of business because it's not sustainable. And the number is this. Take the amount of net liquidity you generate per month. Let's say you're doing $1 million a month, and your net margin is 15%. That's 150 grand, right? Very simple. Now you take that number and then you divide it by the value of the inventory you had at the beginning of that month in stock. Because if you do the math, if you're spending 20% of the sale on the merchandise, you've got 3-4 month lead time to place your POs. So you are carrying 4 months worth of 3 to 4 months worth of merchandise at the beginning of every month. Now, just for the sake of example, if you're doing 150 grand net, 15% net margin, which is a very good number, you are more than likely to have at least $500,000 worth of merchandise in stock at the beginning of that month. Easy, right? So
Absolutely.
What does that mean? 150,000 divided by $500,000, that's almost like 30% roughly. That means if you run your business that healthy, it is still 4 months before you can take a penny out of your operation and put in your pocket, because 4 months worth of business will go to just financing inventory. And that's why I say to people, be careful with discounting, be careful with buying, be careful with how much inventory, how much of the inventory is stale. Because example we had is a very silly example, a very healthy example, and it still came out at 30%. Usually it's around 10, 12, 15%. That means a whole year. So imagine now that you're carrying at 10, 15% rate and you're growing. What do you think is going to happen to you? You're going to run out of cash and go out of business, right? Yeah. That's why I say that is the most important number to always look at every day. I call it return on inventory, ROI. Net liquidity divided by value of inventory at the beginning of the month. And that is going to tell you, okay, we're good. Now, I have this conversation with sellers, and I ask this question to them. See, do you ever, and they say, oh, everything is great, we're growing, we did so much this month. Then I say to them, do you ever feel like, everything is going right and you've got great margins and you're growing, but you find yourself asking, I don't understand, we never have any money in the bank. What's going on? Everything is good. And they say, how do you know that? I said, if you share your screen and show me your numbers, I'm going to tell you how much you are always short. And then, I tell them, it's I just do a round figure. I said, you think about $85,000? How did you know that? And so that's how it is. It's always, and cash is king. You run out of cash, that's it. That's the end of the road.
I would have answered the same way. I would have been like, yeah, how did you know? Because that was me. I remember one time I had exited twice, and I sat down with somebody who just had more business sense than me at the time. And he goes, Carlos, you are very good at moving money, but not very good at making money, like in the early days. And it took me so long to like wrap my head around that. And that was one of the awakening moments that I was like, I need to hire somebody that really knows what they're doing in this, because I've been really lucky so far. And yeah, so you're spot on.
And by the way, now Amazon has low inventory fees. So if you're carrying too low, so that means that you have to buy.
It's insane. I thought it was a prank, but no, that's what it is.
Oh, no. And by the way, did you see that? I mean, we record this on April 2nd, the day after April Fool's Day.
Are you going to say the Twitter post by Dharmesh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's suspending it for a month.
Yeah.
So
we understand that this is going to be refunded. So Carlos, I love the conversation, but unfortunately, obviously, we're running out of time. So let's hear a little bit about you. So how did you? So you have a laundry. You have all these different brands, unrelated. Why do you do this? I mean, why do you start these businesses? What's driving you?
What drove me and got me into that is just 15 years ago. I'm still kind of shocked, but I didn't know that Amazon would still be a thing in 15 years. So the idea was to take what I felt was a healthy percentage of the profits at that time from the business and start other businesses. And I had this, you have different mentors throughout the years. And one of them then was, there was a big thing on just different revenue streams. And you couple that with some ignorance to business. And next thing you know, you have a whole bunch of unrelated businesses together, which have served well. Like if you want to pull equity or you want to pull and you need to like rob Peter to pay Paul, which you want to avoid. But in some cases, it's what saved my bacon. So I wound up with, all these different businesses. And then here we are, Amazon's still in the game. So there was I would advise people not to do that, actually. And instead just really stay in your lane, quadruple down on what you're good at. If you're just starting, don't quit your day job. I pretty much paid myself almost nothing off my businesses until I exited. Like I didn't really make any meaningful money off a business until I exited any of them. So yeah, Amazon private label or starting your brand is not synonymous with good cash flow or great cash flow. Yeah, I started these different things because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And now here we are, 15 years later, and we got a lot of different businesses. To be fair, I have a massive team of virtual assistants and domestic employees. So most of those businesses, short of coming on a show or mentioning it an aside to a buddy, I don't mess with on the day-to-day. What gets my attention on the day-to-day would be our live insect brand, would be a podcast of my own, would be the community and doing new things. Like I love the trying new things. And I'm one of those people that is fortunately a successful seller and also loves to create content, that rare bird. So like, I like marrying those two together in different opportunities that I find. And that's the only thing I've been 100% successful at, like product selection and that ideation phase. Like that's my strong suit.
But I mean, what I want to know is not why you became an Amazon seller, but why, as Carlos, why do you want to do this? I mean, you could have been a painter, or you could have been a professional in a company, a vice president of whatever, but instead,
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. That's what I'm trying to understand.
I think I might have been forced, if you will, because I'm an elementary school dropout actually, and I come from a very, very abusive home, and as a kid, so I found myself, as anyone would in their, young adult years, as all my friends around me, they're going on their, paid leaves, and they're talking about 401ks. And I was a dairy clerk at a local supermarket called Publix, and I was delivering subs and I was selling cigars. And I was like, wait a minute, this, my life is not really screaming, great marriage opportunity to start a family to other people. So I had this expensive ex-girlfriend at the time, and I was just like, I kept trying to do these side hustles to get her stuff, and I stumbled on eBay and very quickly made more on eBay than I was working at, those jobs, which don't pay you a lot. So I quit. And then I was like, oh, let me do this full time. And first 2 years, I was like, taxes are for other people, not me. And I learned the hard way in doing this. And just so happened that during that time, Amazon was really courting eBay sellers to try this new FBA thing. And I was like, okay. I sent all my dead inventory that wouldn't move on eBay over there, and it just flew in a day. So it was the only thing I feel like I had really succeeded in life. And before that, I was like, I'm going to be a video editor, right? Like I'm going to be a video editor. And I realized there's like an art to that you got to have besides just knowing how to navigate the tools. So when I finally succeeded and then almost rapidly had an exit, I was like, well, I think I've failed at everything else that I've tried, but I'm really good at this. So I just went all in. I guess that's why I'm not like a CMO somewhere or anything like that. But I wish I knew now. I wish I knew then what I know now. But having said that, I'm very happy with where I am now. Look, I'm on the show. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, if you didn't have the education that most of these high-paying jobs or any paying job really require, then obviously you were kind of pushed to be either a loser or a winner, because
Yeah.
whichever way you have to fight, and what you're gonna fight with is your creativity, your intellect, or that's all you have. There's nothing else to tap into, and looks like that's what you did. And also maybe I don't know why you would feel like oh, it's not for me, like, selling, working for Publix, in Publix, and then selling. So why not go for something more glamorous, so to speak?
I guess I didn't really have high goals. I don't feel like I was ever that driven. That's a great question because I've not thought of it. So I'm just like replying, with whatever comes to mind.
You didn't think that you could achieve those?
It's very possible. I definitely didn't think I was cut for that. As a matter of fact, I remember my first going all in on this Alibaba order when I went, like early days Alibaba. Family and friends pulled together $82,000. And they're like, let's support him going full time. And I went all in on this Alibaba random order, and the guy stole everything from me. Like I just sent him this money, stole everything. And the week leading up to that, I remember them using the words like entrepreneur, online seller. Keep in mind also, like 15 years ago, if you told someone like what you did was sold online or you sold on Amazon, it was seen as very juvenile, or that was more of like a summer hobby, not
Right.
a solid career choice. Some of it was probably insecurities that I had. And the other ones were probably like, don't yell too loud. Like nowadays I sell on Amazon. That's a badge of honor. I create brands. And back then it was something you probably said in hushed tones. So nobody pointed at you and told you why that was a bad business decision long term and why it wouldn't work. And I wasn't in a mental state to really defend it because I didn't know either.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, but look what happened. That insecurity got you to push harder and learn and do the things. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this is I hear from time to time. You see people on these talk shows, and the guy says, "Oh, I had dyslexia." So, in fact, that was a good thing. In fact, you know who? Barbara Corcoran.
Oh,
Barbara
yeah.
Corcoran was one of those. She mentioned she had dyslexia. And I'm going to end by quoting Michael Caine. So Michael Caine was being interviewed, and as a young actor, he was on set one day, and there was this scene that they were going to shoot, and there was like a big, huge trash can right in front of him. It gets dropped right in front of him as he's in the middle of the scene, and then of course he stumbles, and there is a senior actor, well known. I don't remember the name, and he says, "What's wrong? Why are you huffing and puffing?" And he says, "Well, don't you see, all these things going on the set today?" And he says, "Hey, kid, use the difficulty." He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "You're an actor, no? You're supposed to show emotions. So you've got a difficulty in front of you. Use the difficulty to express your frustrations, your everything." So, and that was a great thing that I thought, use the difficulty. And you did exactly that. You used the difficulty.
Sure. Yeah.
Tell us, how can people reach you? And I'm sure people are going to want to reach out.
Sure. Anywhere on social media at Wizards of Ecom. And I leave my number here, and people don't use it. But again, if you just call me blind, I won't know the number and I won't pick up. But if you text me, I will text back and we might jump on a call. But it's 305-902-1283. And it's me. That's not like a business line. Yeah, just text me, say you listened to the show, you thought it was good, you thought it sucked, whatever the case may be. I have thick skin, and what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want clarification on, I'd be happy to answer. I can't think of a better way to reach me than that.
That's great. That's very generous of you. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Thank you so much.
Before I go, a quick reminder to say goodbye to your cash flow problems and claim your extra $1,500 when you qualify for $25,000 or more in funding. Go to www.runviably.com/legends and start your application today. Thank you. And this brings us to the end of another episode.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the episode, and share it with someone you think would benefit from it too.